Brandon, did you sell the $500 car yet that you bought? If so, how much did you end up selling it for?
We had a car that I showed on a video that we paid $500 for, and
this is a 2009 Mazda 6, and I just paid $500 for it at a used car dealer auction.
It was a rare occurrence because over the last few years, cars don't fall through the cracks. And if it's a $500 car and it runs, and I can get it at auction for $500, that means it fell through the cracks, 100%. And this is something that we're starting to see every once in a while. We used to see it all the time, where we would go and we would buy 10 cars from an auction, and 3 of them we paid between $300 and $500 on. And that's just something over the last few years, as there haven't been very many cars actually show up at auction, because a lot of these new car dealers, they're just not selling the same kind of volumes that they have been back 2019 and before that. So fewer trade-ins are actually coming through the system, meaning that the dealers, just like myself, we're all fighting over the same cars. So when that happens, you don't have $500 cars that fall through the cracks where only one person wants to bid on it, which would be us in this case. And in this particular case on this question, it's a $500 Mazda 6. I believe it was a 2009, if I'm not mistaken. But no, we have not sold it yet. It is still sitting at the back of my lot, hasn't been moved. I haven't asked about it. I was actually at the shop this morning. But for my estimation, there's cars that move through our system, and I can kind of tell what's happening with the cars depending on where they're actually parked at our lot. And I can tell you it's not parked in a place that is ready to be cleaned. So from my estimation, there's something wrong with that car. So yes, we probably got a really good deal on that $500 car, but as $500 cars go, it's parked in a place that we're probably going to have to do some work on it. And just to give you a reference point of like how we price our cars, because I think you're asking about this too. So we don't use book values on our cars. We don't price our cars like a lot of other car dealers do. What they'll do is they'll look at the car that they bought. They won't even take consideration into what they paid for it. They'll look at the book value on it, and then they'll look at what the bank will loan on it, and then that's how they price their car. So let's say there's a car that the book says it's worth $12,500, and the bank will loan $11,500 on it. Well, what that car dealer will often do is price it for $13,500. And then that they know that, okay, they can get the bank to loan X amount, and they can get the difference in the down payment. And then that customer can just borrow the rest of the money from the actual bank. And that's how they'll typically price their cars. For us, we don't do that. We go and price it off of exactly what we paid. So if you steal a car at auction, then we let the customer steal the car from our lot. They get a good deal, basically, is what I'm saying. And how we typically try to price is right out the gate. Whenever we get a car, we'll try to mark it up somewhere around $1,500. We might round up a little bit. We might round down a little bit depending on how nice the actual car is. But after 2 weeks, if that car hasn't sold, not a lot of attention, then we'll drop it by $500. I know I probably shouldn't even give you this information, especially if you know where our car dealership is, but this is just how we price it. So if you see a car on our lot that's been there for 10, 12 days and you like it, but you think it's a little bit too high, in a few days, we're going to drop it by $500. And then if it sits there for another 2 weeks, then we'll drop it another $500. And that's just how we price our cars. But the inverse can happen. If we steal a car, then the customer can end up stealing the car too, compared to what the market would typically sell that car for. But like I said, the inverse can happen where maybe we pay too much for a car. It happens. We're not perfect, and we know pretty much what we can sell cars for. But every once in a while, we get caught up in an auction. And I mean, Alex buys a lot of my cars, and this is something that I do probably more often than he does when I'm actually going in and looking at cars. But if I really like something, then sometimes I just don't put my head down when I should, and I end up paying $300, $400, $500 more for a car than I really should. And we tried to do that same system where we mark it up $1,500, and it's way too much. So the market will tell us that in 2 weeks. We'll drop it again, and the market will tell us, okay, Brandon, you still paid too much for this car, so we'll mark it down again, and then we'll end up making $300, $400, $500 on the car. That's where someone will actually pay for it, and we just let the market tell us that, and we go off what we buy the car for and not necessarily what the car is worth. Have we left money on the table because of this? Probably. But in a lot of situations, I think we're able to move cars faster and still make good money off cars just because we're pricing them. It's basically, I feel like in my head, it's more of that we're selling a service and not a product. Our service is we go to cars, we buy them at wholesale at auction, and then we mark it up X amount of dollars, and that's what someone will pay us for it. So you're paying for the privilege of wholesale plus X instead of, okay, market value on the car. I know it doesn't work out like that because in a lot of cases, a lot of these dealers that I'm bid against, they know what the market value is on the car. So it winds up that we pay often what the wholesale price should be anyway. And that's typically how it works out, but that's not how I want it to work out in my head. But pricing with used cars is just, it's all over the place. It used to be a pretty easy standard thing for us to go and be able to buy cars for $500-600, and then we don't have to do anything to them. Mark them up to $1,800, $2,000, roll them on out. We make money. Customer gets a good deal, but it's been very tough for the last 5 years now. It's crazy to even think about how fast the last 5 years have gone, but it's been tough.
Do you still get manual transmission vehicles? If so, what's the percent of auto versus manual? Save the manual. Thanks, CQA.
Yeah, we don't buy any manuals anymore. I don't even look if they're manual. Me and Alex, we don't even try to buy them. The thing about it is no one knows how to drive them anymore. I know probably a lot of you that are watching, you're older statesmen. I know my demographics, 75% of you are like 50 years and older. You guys know how to drive manuals. I know how to drive a manual. My first car was a manual, and I'm 37, and I'm a rare breed because even a lot of millennials like me, they don't know how to drive manual transmissions. So we used to buy them, and because I would get a good deal on them because they were harder to sell. But what ended up happening is multiple times we would have customers that come up and say that they can drive a manual transmission. They would take off in it on a test drive, and they come back and the clutch is burned out of it. Or at very least, you smell clutch burning in it because they didn't know how to drive. The last manual I ever had was a white Ford Mustang. I think it was like a 2003, 2004, somewhere around that. It looked great for what it was. I didn't like those body styles, but for what it was clean. It was a good car. I had a kid that wanted to buy the car, and I knew it was manual transmission, and I knew of all the problems that we've had with especially kids thinking that they can drive manual transmissions and they don't know how to. So I walked out there with him with the keys and said, all right, tell you what, you get in it and crank it up, and I just want to see what he's going to do. So he got in it, turned the key, wouldn't crank. He said, man, this thing's a piece of junk. It won't even crank. I said, dude, get out the car. You don't know how to drive a straight drive. I say straight drive, manual transmission. A lot of people blow me up when I say straight drive. It's the same thing. But manual transmission, he said, man, it's junk. It won't even crank. I said, all right, get out of the car. You don't know how to drive it. And he said, yeah, I know how to drive this thing. What are you talking about? This is junk. It won't crank. I said, please get out the car. It won't crank. He said, okay, let me try it again. And he tried to crank it again, and it wouldn't turn over. And he was like, okay, I said, okay, get out of the car. He finally got out of the car, gave me the keys. I said, to drive a manual transmission, you have to push in the clutch to actually start the car. He did not know this. He did not know how to drive a manual transmission. He said, oh, and put his head down and said, yeah, I guess I don't know how to drive one. And then he left. So that was the last one I ever bought. And we will not be buying them anymore because kids now, and that's who grew up. I mean, that's who wants to buy them because they're cool. And it's going to be a kid that buys one. And they don't know how to drive them. And their parents at this point, they don't know how to drive them. So no, we're not going to, I wish we were able to have them because I think they're cool. I love manual transmission. I think it's so much fun to drive, but it's going to be harder to sell them going forward, and there's going to be more risk with it just because we're going to end up having to pay money for clutches on people who say they know how to drive one, but they actually do not.
We don't need our team having to answer weird questions about how many pedals are in the car.
Yeah, this car is
happen.
weird. Is it a mail carrier? It's got 3 pedals. This is a traded mechanism over here.
Depending on the emergency brake, why does it have 4 pedals?
Right.
We don't need these questions. It's happening. Like there's no way. It's one of those questions that's very high maintenance for the one of those cars is very high maintenance for the team. In your neck of the woods, is rust a big issue on cars there?
No, and really for that reason is why my niche can actually exist. Is why I can actually be in business. Is why I can be a car dealer that sells cars that are $5,000 under. If you go a lot of other places in the country, if you go to the Northeast, if you go by a coast, if you go in any kind of mountain situation, anywhere that gets snow, rust is a big problem. And over the course of like 10 years, rust can really eat into a lot of the frames of a lot of these cars, and they're no longer safe. So I sell a lot of cars that are 20 years old and can have 200,000 miles. And a lot of people that are in those places, they don't understand how I can even sell those things, because in your neck of the woods, what happens? Well, those cars are in two because they've already fallen apart so much. They've already disintegrated so much from rust. We don't have that here. I can have a car that's 25 years old, has 200,000 miles. You look under it and the frame looks brand new. And that is why I'm able to do what I do. That's why I'm able to go and buy $1,500 to $2,500 cars and to sell them for what, $2,000, $3,500, $4,000, because those cars still actually exist and are still actually safe. They run. The corrosion that happens to a lot of your electrical parts, anything that's metal in your car, it doesn't happen here. Now, there's still going to be things on older cars that break, and we fix a lot of those things, but you're not going to have the massive safety concern from the frames being so rusty. And that is why that I exist here, and I probably couldn't exist doing the same thing that I'm doing in a lot of other places around the country. And we even get people that are come from Michigan, North Dakota, South Dakota to come and actually buy cars from us because they can't buy a $3,000 Ford Taurus up there that is 2006, because they just don't exist. And if they do exist, they've been garage kept their whole life and there's no rust. But up there, that same kind of car might cost $7,000, while it might cost $3,000 down here. And it's just for the simple fact that cars like that up north in Michigan, things like that, they just don't exist.